Hello! How are we all doing? Let's do a sound check first because we had all those problems last time. Can you hear everything? Is it all coming through fine? Let's see how the I think the vocals more I think the audio there's I think it's more in sync. Everything okay? Make sure that's down. Cool. Okay, so as I said last time, and for any of you that weren't here for the previous live stream, it's the 10th anniversary. So we've been around for a full decade now. So give me a shout if there's anybody that's been around from the start, from July 2013. Yeah, it's a full 10 years. So we're going to have a sale. So there's a sale on over at the website. So it's 25% off everything. So any of you looking to get a bargain on any of the courses there, that's 25% off. And today I'm going to talk about technique. And, I talk about technique a lot on the channel. And I've had so many dedicated lessons to it. I'm going to talk about, both hands, left and right hand, and I'm going to use a few etudes that are from the Technique Builder course. So, don't know if any of you have already got the Technique Builder course. There's the good old book from it, and I'm going to use a few etudes from there to demonstrate some of the things that I'm going to talk about. I actually talk about all of these things in the Technique Builder course, and I'm also going to have a look at one of the classical pieces from the classical coaching course, specifically the Bach's Prelude No. 1. From the Well-Tempered Clavier. So we'll have a little bit of a look at that, and even if you're a beginner, it doesn't really matter. A piece like that, you can still use element. You can still learn it. I learned a lot of those pieces when I was, maybe not an absolute beginner, but within the first couple of years, because they're not particularly fast. They're not, but they're a good workout for the actual technique. It's just an arpeggio at the end of the day. So if you can play a basic major arpeggio, then you're getting there. So I'll just wait for a few more people to come in before I start waffling on about technique. So who we got in? Hi Danny, is that Philadelphia? We've got a bunch of people from there. I guess that's Philadelphia, that PA. Hi Eric. James, Oklahoma. So we've actually got some Americans in this time. I know that the timing is not perfect for America. It's like 9 a.m. in LA, and I'm guessing a lot of people are going to be at work considering it's a Monday. But it's this time kind of works out well for me. It's 5 in the afternoon here in the UK. Hi Bill. Any Houston steaks lately? No. Although I have been trying to figure out how they make them so well over there. What else we got? Hi, Graham. Just in case you start seeing beads of sweat drip down my face, I'm in this little tent here, and I've closed the window now. It's not a particularly hot day, but it's a little bit humid in here. Hi, chat. Only 2 years into learning. Well, that'd be fine. Just to let you know as well, I'm writing up a blog post that you'll be able to see probably within the next couple of days. That's going to be the history of talking bass, and it talks about my history, how I got started playing, how I went into teaching, how then I went into becoming a professional musician, and then how Talkingbass got started. And I have lots of little photographs showing you, the unit that I'm using here at the studio, and the history of that. So that might be quite interesting for a few of you. So that'll probably be released, I don't know, in the next couple of days. So look out for emails for that. So and what you'll see there is a few pictures of me and a little bit about when I very first got started. And you said you were only 2 years into learning. Well, 2 years into learning, I was actually learning some of these pieces that I, the piece that I'm actually playing there, and the one that I did with Ariane Cap, I think that was 3 years into playing when I did that, because I used that as an audition piece for music college. And so it is, I wouldn't have been able to play it like I can now, obviously. But that was way back in, 1993? I started playing in 1990. So it's, you should be fine with some of some of those pieces. And the actual technical etudes that I'm going to work through in a minute, they're fine for players of any level. So, like I said, the etudes that I'm going to show you are from the Technique Builder course. And for any of you that have just walked in, it's the 10th anniversary. We've got the 10th anniversary sale going on. I've got all these live hangs that I'm doing. So, it's a big week. Sergio's in from Italy. Like I say, I'm just going to wait until a few more people come in, because otherwise they're all going to miss it. And we had this last time, actually. People were asking questions about the chord tone thing that I, the seminar that I did. And people were coming in about 40 minutes in, and then asking questions about the stuff that I covered about, 45 minutes before. So I need to wait a little bit. I know some people get a little bit frustrated when I'm doing the talk at the beginning. Oh, great. Timothy's here from the year 2112, from the future. Cool. Starting to sweat already. That's good. And I've not eaten anything all day. Well, I had a salad this morning at about 10 o'clock. So I'm quite hungry as well. Oh, thanks, Treadhead. Treadhead, 1945. Started in May of 2020 as a 50th birthday gift. Haven't looked back. The only issue is my reach is horrible. Well, I'm going to talk about that in this technique webinar, I suppose you could call it. Just bought you beginner slap bass course. Oh, cool. I'm going to redo the slap course, by the way. Don't worry, you won't have to buy it again. But some of those old courses, Basic Fundamentals, the slap one, I'm going to redo the videos so that they're a bit more up to date, because I did those way back in about 2014, and I've got much better gear now. So it just looks a lot better, and I'm just better on camera now as well. So I'll redo the videos. It'll be the same material pretty much, but yeah. Can you talk about how to increase speed? Yes, I'm going to be talking about that too. Okay, so we've got 113 in. Okay, so it's probably not going to go too much above that. So I'll start talking about some of this technique stuff. So first of all, let's break it down, right? So you've got two hands, okay? So we'll break it up into the two sides. Now, first things first, let's think about the fretting hand. That's the thing that people worry about the most, although I do have to say that most of the problems that you're going to have with learning most things are going to be in the picking hand. And I don't mean speed, because speed is one of those things that you just build up naturally over time. You can't really work on speed. Really what's happening when you build up speed is just you're gaining more familiarity. Yes, you're gaining more familiarity with the muscle memory, I suppose it is. Your dexterity increases a bit, but it is basically a case of just playing stuff slowly, and then you gradually just build up speed. Yeah, in terms of the left hand, the fretting hand, there's a few little basic things that you need to pay attention to. One of them is obviously the placement of the thumb. That's the connecting limb, I suppose, there, or digit. So like most of you probably know this already, to maximize your stretch and for the most efficient way of playing, you really want it in the back of the neck. You don't really want it like this. Now, that's not to say that you're not going to place the thumb over the edge of the neck like that. If I'm playing slapping stuff, you can see the thumb there's, you know, all over the place. You bring it round for muting and stuff like that. But, you know, if you're playing, you know, any of that stuff, you can't really see my thumb there. It's in the back of the neck here. That's going to be the way to maximize your stretch. And just while we're on that topic, I will come back to this in a minute. Somebody was asking about maximizing stretch. Well, there's a few things to look at there, but if you've got the further round that you go with the thumb, the more you're going to maximize your stretch. Okay, so if you've, as a, you know, the opposite example, if you've got your thumb right over here, right, and then you try stretching out the fingers, it's really difficult. You're going to find it really hard to maximize you know, get a good stretch there. Between this, when I talk the stretch, I'm pretty much talking about the stretch between the first and fourth fingers. So if you've got it there, your fingers become all scrunched up here and you really can't do much. If I put it in the back of the neck and get the fingers parallel to the frets, well, look, even without me moving the fingers at all, I've already made the hand a little bit more stretched out. And then the more I want to stretch, the more I bring the thumb round. So if I'm doing something like that, you know, I've got the 7th to the 12th fret there. I've raised the neck. That's always a good way to maximize that, to maximize the stretch. And I've put the thumb right round here. The further round here you get, the more you're going to limit yourself. So, yeah, you want your thumb in the back. You want to curl the fingers for more melodic kind of lines. So we're talking scales and things like that. So if you want to curl the fingers. The more you curl the fingers, the less of that flappy hand you're going to have. If you ever have that kind of issue where the fingers are coming right out like this, well, the key to stopping that is to curl the fingers more. Okay, so that's pretty much that hand. You know, that's pretty much all there is to it. Just curl those fingers. I do talk often about the flat hand versus the curled fingers thing because there is room for playing with a flat hand, and you know, I've got to say, if I'm just playing this, I'm not curling the fingers. I'll be using a more flat-fingered approach because you want to use this part of the finger for muting the A, D, and G. Well, if you're on the E string, that is. You want to use the underside of that finger, of that first finger there, to mute the other strings. So there, when I'm playing like that, I've kind of got the finger, not completely flat, it's not like this. I'm still pressing down with this tip of the finger, so it's a little bit like this. But you're using the underside of the hand to lightly lay across the finger, across the strings, and that's where the muting of the upper strings comes from. Okay, you're going to use the thumb in this hand for the muting of the strings below the one that you're playing. But you know, if I'm playing, or if I'm playing something like joint barring in, like, you know, that kind of move. Can you see how the fingers are very flat? It's when I'm playing that kind of thing that I'm going to be curling the fingers. So the sort of quicker lines that you're going to be playing, the more you want to curl the fingers. Slapping, all of that stuff, you're going to be thinking more flat hand because you're going to be using a lot of this kind of, what do you call it? A kind of palm slap, you know, the left hand slap. If you look at what's happening in this hand there, it's all flat-handed. I'm not curling the fingers at all, really, there. So, yeah, now the other thing to bear in mind with the fretting hand in terms of stretch is actually you shouldn't be stretching. You don't really want to be stretching the hand. I know a lot of people start thinking, oh, I need to be able to, you know, stretch all those 5 frets. And yeah, I can do it there. I've got fairly big hands. But you are going to be limited by, you know, well, you've got your physical restrictions. You know, if you've got tiny, tiny hands, then obviously if you stretch your hand out, it's going to be less of a stretch than it is with somebody that's 6'8" with massive hands. You know, Robert Pershing Wadlow. You're not gonna have that kind of stretch. So the key then to making larger distance moves is to actually move the hand. I very rarely stretch. The only time that I stretch the fingers out is when I'm doing things like that. If you're doing, you know, these kind of Jacko-esque things, or if I was doing, you see how I've got to hold the fingers down if I'm doing anything in terms of hammer-ons or pull-offs, you know, legato. If I'm pulling off, I've got to stretch then because I'm pulling off to the next note. You know, you got to hold them all down. But that's it. That's the only time you have to do that. So if I'm going to be playing anything, I mean, let's take a F sharp major scale, for instance. I don't need to be holding all those notes down all the way. Or let's take something even bigger. Let's take an F major scale starting on the first finger, right? So first fret, third fret, fifth fret on the E string, first fret, third fret, fifth fret on the A string. And then the E and the F there, second fret and third fret on the D string. Well, that, if you're going to try and stretch it, is going to be a really big stretch. And like I said, I can do it, but I wouldn't. There's no point. What I would do is use the same fingering most of the time. I would probably use first finger, second finger, fourth finger, but I move the hand. So there's the F, then there's the G. Look where the first finger ends up. So there's the F. I'm just pretty much in a kind of octave pattern there with the hand. Well, I mean, a 3 fret stretch, let's say. But I am keeping the hand there on the E string. So I've got the F, and then I just move to the second finger there, and then I move to the fourth finger. But look at what's happening with the hand. It's just moving, and I'm keeping the same kind of closed hand as I move. That's called micro shifting, and you do that all with this thumb pivoting. So you can pivot the thumb here. So the thumb there for me, when I start out there, the thumb's roughly around where the second fret is, and then I'm just doing this. I mean, you can do a lot with that thumb pivot. I've shown this on multiple videos. If I want to, if I'm moving between the 7th and 12th fret there, let's say, I can just move the thumb like that, but I could also, let's say, move from the C up to the G without moving the hand. You know, I mean, it's a really ridiculous example. Or let's say, that's the pivot, right? So the key with all of that is to be careful with your actual note duration, because when you start moving more with the hand, you're going to start creating gaps between the notes. So you have to be careful not to do this. With the F major example. Well, here it is how you should play it. Ba 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 ba, and then bob bob bob. Gaps. You don't want the gaps. You have to be careful to make sure that as you move at the last second. Well, I say it's the last second. You move as you need the note. So if I was to play it in time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I'm moving on the next number, the next count, right? So 1, 2. When I get to 2, that's when I move. I don't move before. And this also will help with getting rid of any of that kind of fret noise that everybody moans about. Just don't move until the last second. Now, that means you're going to have to move quick. Look when I'm moving. And it doesn't matter how bad technique I've got with that in terms of the hand. I could be doing this. Look at the fingers all over the place. But as long as I move last second, you know, on the note that's required, it doesn't matter, because we've moved when the note's required. Okay, so that's the key to micro shifting. Now, might also move with the first finger. You know, that's another option. As long as you move at the last second, you're not going to get any sliding between it. And I've talked about this before. If you watch Danny Moe Morris, who does a lot of the muting stuff with this hand, he moves around all over the place with one finger. He plays with one finger most of the time, so... Now, when you do that, if I was to play... I mean, I've used this example loads of times on these live hangs. If I play... You can... Or F major arpeggio, perfect example. Instead of using all the fingers here, I can play with just one finger. As long as you shift at the correct time. Now, if you can play that with that huge movement, well, then using multiple fingers, well, you're sorted, aren't you? So that's stretching. Don't stretch. Just move the hand. Because people always moan about, oh, I've only got small hands, I need short scale basses. Well, yeah, short scale bass would be fine. You can use a short scale bass. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it's just because you feel like you don't have large enough hands and you can't stretch, don't worry about it. Just don't stretch. You know. Okay. So that's the left hand. Now, the other thing to look at is the right hand. And this is the hand that's going to cause most of the problems. Whenever you get finger twisted with a piece, it's usually going to be because of the picking hand. Now, like I said before, I'm not talking about speed necessarily. That can be a problem for people, you know, if you're trying to play, you know, some Billy Sheehan kind of thing. But any of you that watched me learn solfeggiato on the Facebook live hang, microphone's getting in the way. All that thing. The problem that I ran into more than anything is this hand. It wasn't the fretting hand, it was all the picking hand. So it's this hand that you really need to look at in terms of your technique. Now, first of all, again, the joining digit is the thumb. So it's worth looking at your thumb position. So the first thing to be aware of is that thumb is going to be your muting finger. So that's going to be the one that's going to be doing a lot of the muting. So just as a quick primer on that, if you're going to be playing on the E string, obviously you're going to want to have your thumb on the pickup. And you're probably going to be using rest stroke, so the finger is going to be picking a note and then coming back to rest on the next one. So if you do that, as you work up, it becomes less important as you get onto the higher strings to actually move the thumb. But down on this, down here, obviously you want to be on the pickup. And then, let's say I was playing through a C major scale from the 8th fret of the E string. Oops. I'll start with the thumb on the pickup, and then I'll shift onto the E string as I come up onto the A string, and then I'll probably just leave the thumb on the E string when I'm playing on the D string because the rest stroke is going to mute the A string. So it's all about muting. That's what the thumb is doing. So I generally pick alternating, well, actually I said that. Don't get too drawn into whether you need to alternate pick or whether you need to be playing with 3 fingers or 1 finger or whatever. It's just whatever works, right? So a lot of the time, I'm going to be playing with 1 finger. I might bring another finger into play if I'm doing something quick. So when I played that, when I played the, I alternated. But don't get too pedantic with it. But the one thing that you do want to bear in mind when you're learning a piece or something that's tricky is you want to know which finger you're starting with, and you want to then always keep track of which finger is playing which note. Now, I know that can sound pretty tricky because there's going to be a lot of notes, but the key to that is to know which note which finger you're starting on, and then think, okay, alternate, 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 and if I'm going to rake, take note of where you rake. Now, remember, I'm talking about things that are tricky for you here. You know, I'm like, you know, that kind of thing, where I'm thinking, okay, well, what am I going to start on? I'll start on the second finger, and then I know that I'm going to be playing ding, 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 alternating. So you can use certain notes as waypoints as you go to ensure that you're on the correct finger. So as I work through, very slowly tracking it, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. When I get to that B natural there, I know that if I've alternated correctly, I know that I should be on the second finger. So you can use these little waypoints just to check whether you're in the right place. If you hit one of those waypoints and you're on the wrong finger, you know that you're in the wrong place. And here's another thing. If you're learning something like a piece, now I know I'm using solfeggiato as an example, but I mean, this could be anything. This could be, you know, a Rush tune. It could be anything, right? Something that you find quite tricky. As you do that, you need to, like I said, you need to bear in mind which finger you're going to be starting on. And you also want, what we're going to say there, I've kind of lost my train of thought. What were we going to say then? It was about learning a piece. Waypoints. Yeah, well, there you go. You just have to keep thinking of the waypoints and keep track of when you're going to be raking. If you're going to rake, think, okay, I'm raking there. Okay, so that's just something to bear in mind with the fingers. Pretty much, if you've taken notice of those few things that I've talked about there, you should be fine. But the other thing is, you know, putting both hands together, you really want to be relaxing the hands, right? So the quicker you play, doesn't matter what style, the faster you play, the lighter you want to play. I mean, it pays to actually play lightly pretty much all the time. And I didn't really... this didn't click with me until I was playing regularly live. Because when you first start and you're playing in a bedroom or something like that, you might not have your amp, you might have the amp on quiet, you know, and you pick harder when you're playing stuff that's harder for you and all this stuff. But when you start playing live, loud, and you first turn your amp on in a live gig, and it's like, oh man, you are naturally going to play lighter. As long as your amp's powerful enough, because it's just going to be, oh man, noise, you know. So you are going to naturally play lighter. So I found that I was naturally playing lighter, just playing live, you know, just on bit. Like I said, just I'd barely be touching the strings. As long as you've got the amp turned up correctly, that's fine. The other thing with playing lighter is that you'll get more sustain. You'll get a lot of sustain out of a note. If any of you are having problems getting sustain on a note, it's usually because you're too quiet on your amp. If you play lighter, but you have the amp turned up, obviously you're not going to have as much of an attack, so you're not going to have this kind of transient at the start. So you'll have less of a transient, so there's less of a drop-off for the sustain part of the waveform. So if you've then got the amp louder, it means that sustain part of the waveform is actually higher. You don't have to worry about that attack, because that attack is going to be the thing that distorts and causes all the problems. And you'll generally judge your volume at a gig or whatever, even if you're practicing, by the attacks if you're playing loud. So if I'm hitting, you're going to be judging it by that initial attack. But then there's this sudden drop-off. If I'm hardly hitting, it means that we get this nice even attack and you get more sustain. It's an aural illusion, really. You're not changing anything, really. It's just that, you're just not hitting as hard. So, that sustain was still there. It wasn't like the note was disappearing. It's just that you've now got the amp louder. So again, that's a really important part. I know that that's more of a tone aspect of playing, but you know, technique plays a big part in that. So yeah, so as long as you play lightly, and you know, I've seen people, you know, when I've been doing doing things like Steve Harris 2-finger picking, and you know, like I've said, you want to play lightly, the lighter you play, the faster and more stamina you're going to have. And that's going to be really important, especially if you're playing live, because, you know, adrenaline can flow and you can just end up tightening up. And, you know, the tighter you are in your muscles as you're playing, the less speed that you're going to have. So when somebody was talking about increasing speed, the key is to play lighter. You know, if I'm playing with 3 fingers there, the harder I play, well, just the more tense I am and the more I'm just going to burn out really fast. But the lighter, I could go forever like that. You know, you just turn up a little bit. So so that's technique in both hands. And like I said, I talk about this at length in the Technique Builder course over at the Talking Bass website. And like for anybody that's just come into the live hang, it's the 10th anniversary, so I've got a sale on over there. So we've got 25% discount and everything. So I'm best off telling everybody that, just in case you didn't realise. So what I'm going to do now is work through 3 etudes that are taken from the Technique Builder course, just to give you an example of the things that I've just been talking about. Now, the first etude, let's have a look at it. I'll bring it up here, so hopefully we can get it. Then I'll have to move to the side a little bit, won't I? So that's the first etude. So straight 16th notes. Well, not straight 16th notes. There's an 8th note in there as well. But I'll just play through it. Let's see if I can remember the things. I'll just read through it first. So, oops. Okay, so just a simple little etude that's based on a major scale. So this one's in C major. So sounds like a sea shanty. And the idea with these etudes in the Technique Builder course is that you'll learn them like this. You'll get down the fingering, so you want it to be the same fingering every single time. And I've mentioned this before as well, that if you don't use the same fingering in both hands, you want exactly the same picking pattern, you want exactly the same fingering in this hand. If you don't do that, then you're practicing a different piece. You're practicing a different thing. You know, if you're changing it up all the time, you want it to be consistent. So every time you play it, you want exactly the same thing. So you are practicing the exact same movements each time. So basically what we've got here is a little turn. So we're on a C. I won't work through every single note. You can see them there. So I've got this little turn. Then I'm coming up in 3s up to the G. So I'm ensuring that I'm keeping the same fingering there. So I'm starting on the 2nd finger for the C there. So this is basically using the fingering that you have for a C major scale all the way. Now when I come down here, let's play that again. Notice how I'm shifting down with the hand. I'm not stretching out like this. Remember what I said about stretching? You don't need to do it. You just make the move. Okay, so it's just a case of learning those notes. But, well, the notes there, the actual fingering, it's all very straightforward in this hand. Okay, it's just a linear melodic line. The part of this that is going to be tricky, let me move this around over here, is going to be in the picking hand. So what I'm going to do is start on the 2nd finger. So this is all alternate picking. There's no raking in here at all. So as I play through it, I'm starting on the 2nd finger, and I've got 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So then when I get to that G there, that first one, I'm on the second finger. Remember what I said about waypoints? You want to make sure that you're on the second finger when you get there. And I've got to say, when you play with these waypoints, it gives you... it just actually helps with learning the piece. You kind of feel a bit more connected to it. You feel like you know where you're going. So... And then I can play with the first finger as I come down. Just alternating all the way. Then I start again. Second finger start again. Second finger when I hit that G, and then when I get up onto that A, I'm going to be starting with the second finger again. Now, in the Technique Builder course, I work through this note by note. I show you all about the fingerings and everything, so you know exactly what you should be doing. So there's coaching through every single one. There's 60 different etudes in there. So I coach you through each one. So there's 60 less. Well, there's a first module where I talk about all the technical stuff that I was just talking about before. And then in the second module, the 60 lessons where I work through every single etude. But like I said, the key here is to focus on this hand. This hand, straightforward. And look at the, let me just bring that off a second. Watch the movement in this hand, the little micro shifts. Can you see how I've got this going on? I'm not holding the hand rigid like this. I'm moving it slightly. Then when I come down, I'm playing the G with the fourth finger. Oops. Now, once you've learned it in one key like that, in C major, then, you know, you build up a bit of speed. Oh, and also, before I forget, you want to also keep track of the thumb. So as you're... For the first few lines, you can actually keep that thumb there on the E string. Obviously, I've got to bring the thumb down onto the pickup as I come down onto the E string. And then I shift up onto the A string with the thumb when I come up onto the G string. But then, after you've played that, then you can take it through all the different keys. So you can take it up to, let's say, D flat. So you just move it up a fret, and then up another fret to D. Okay, again, up to E flat. Okay, so it's one of those exercises you can just run through the keys, and every key is going to give you a different set of hurdles. As you move up the fretboard, it will just feel different because the stretch is different. You just your arm is in a different place. You know, as you move up, your elbow's going to be further up here. It'll just feel different. Okay. Obviously, with this, because it goes down, you really need to. You can't go any lower down than the B major, so you really have to move up on the A string. But it's just one of those etudes where you'll be able to, you know, work on both fingers. You'll be keeping track of the picking hand, and it's going to give you a nice workout in this hand. All of the, you know, the major scale, you know, playing major scales. This makes use of scalar movement, okay? Not to the same level that the Cyborg bassist book does, but still, it's basically just an etude, just in a, you know, just making use of that major scale. And you know, in the Technique Builder, out of all those 60 etudes, some of them are 1 bar long, some of them are 4 bars long, some of them are 8 bars long. They're all different lengths, and they cover a lot of different areas. So there's some that are in different modes. There's diminished ones, all-tone ones, there's minor ones, there's classical sounding ones, there's jazz sounding ones, there's a bunch of different types. So apologies, by the way, I'm not looking at the comments at the moment. I'm just getting through this. I'll work through the Q&A in a second. So that's etude number 1. So, you know, I've seen some people say, you know, in testimonials about the Technique Builder course, that when they actually just worked on etude number 1, they felt that they were actually getting some benefit in the hands. You know, if you just run through that, even at a slow tempo, you know, you don't rush it. You know, just you don't have to play in time, and you don't have to think of metronomic 16th notes. You know, you just play it as slow as you need to, exercising the hand. Okay, so that's etude number 1. Now, the next one that I've got, I just picked them out earlier on, is this one. So this is a classical sounding one. So again, I've not really been running through these, so I'll just familiarize myself with it. So okay, so this is a pedal point one, and this is going to give you quite a bit of exercise in the pinky there. You'll get a bit of a pull in the forearm, so you don't want to overdo it. But basically what's happening here is in C to begin with. So we've just got the C. You can play that with either the second finger or the first finger. If you really want to work out, you can actually start on the second finger. But if you start on the first finger, it's not a problem. So we've got the initial low C, and then we've got the high C, and then the B and the C coming back. So 5th, 4th, and 5th fret on the G string. So that's the initial move. Then we've got the same move again, but instead of the C, we use the G there at the 5th fret of the D string. So this time on that, whoops, I'm going to actually use joint barring. Now, in case you've never seen joint barring before, and like I said, I talk about this at length in the Technique Builder course, that's where you use the same finger for 2 adjacent strings, so that you don't have to do that hop along kind of thing. You know, that helps with keeping consistency of note duration. So if I'm playing, instead of playing, or perfect example, if I'm on a C and I'm playing a low G, so, or let's say it was something like that, instead of playing with that first finger, or maybe even using second finger, first finger, which would work, I can just use one finger, use the underside of the finger there for the C, and the more of the tip of the finger for the G, and then you just kind of use that joint to move between them. What you're actually doing is pivoting a little bit, and using the movement of the hand as well, so as a lever. So it's just more efficient. So when I play there, I'm using the 4th finger, I'm levering with it as well. Okay, which is good for if you're raking and things like that. So when it gets to that G on the D string, after playing the C that second time, I'm just joint barring down onto the, so you get a bit of a workout on that 4th finger. And then same again, you're always coming back to this C, B, C. So you have G, F, E, D. So and then you just come up from the D, but using the C up at the 5th fret of the G string as the pedal then. So, oops. When you come back down, you've got the D and then the B and then back to C. Again, I'm not going to work through every single note here. You can see it there, but it's all there in the Technique Builder course. So, what you can also do is you don't need to play the F with the second finger. You can actually use the first finger. See how there I use the first finger. Okay, so again, that's a really good workout for the hand. Oops. That time I used the second finger. It's quite tough, that. Okay, so I wanna work on that myself. That's really good workout. And then again, you can move that around. Like I said, different places, it's going to be, it's going to feel different. So if I was up on, let's say, G flat here, so that's which etude's that? That's etude number 21. Okay, so they gradually get a little bit more tricky as you work through. So then finally, out of those etudes, we've got this diminished one. So this one's a little bit more tricky. So what we have here, let me see if I can remember this one. So, oops. So, how far do we go down? Yeah. So. That's it. Diminished run. So okay, so that's a pretty tricky one, that. So this is a diminished arpeggio, diminished 7 arpeggio. Okay, so you might have heard that kind of thing. So you've got it's a pretty common arpeggio, but it's starting up at the top and it's coming down in groups of 6. So once you know the actual pattern there, which is basically minor thirds working up. So you've got C and E flat there, so 3rd and 6th fret on the A string. There's that minor third. Then you take another minor third there, just 1 half step up on the G flat to the A there, so that's going to be 4th fret and 7th fret on the D string. So same thing, same 1st and 4th fingers there, and then you just move up onto the next string 1 fret higher. And then again, same thing, same pattern, 1 fret higher on the G string. So the first thing to do is to get used to that, and then you can also go down below as well. So if I went down from the C to the A and then down to the G flat, it's the same, but we just go down a half step. So okay, so that's a diminished 7 arpeggio. So what we do is we start at the top on this E flat, and then you just come down in groups of 3 with these sextuplets, really. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So each time you come down 3 notes and then you work up 1, and then down 3 notes and up 1. So all the way down to the F sharp or G flat. So now in this hand, I'm starting with the 4th finger, the pinky. I'm coming down to the 1st finger, and then I'm using the 3rd finger there, the ring finger. And then once I've moved down fully with that 1st finger, I move back to the 4th finger for the next start again. Same process. So okay, so that's the descent. That's the easy part, really. So it's always easier to descend than it is to ascend. So, and then you just come up through the arpeggio. But that, even though you're not coming down, it's the same thing. You're just moving straight up directly rather than in sequence. But it's harder just climbing up. So. Okay, so I'm starting with the 1st finger of the picking hand and alternating all the way. So you'll find that when you do the ascent, it really pushes you. Okay, and then like I said, you can just move that you can just move it through all the keys again. So again, that's a really, really good exercise, and that'll just get used to movements that you might not be used to. And again, you don't need to be stretching at all. As I'm coming down, I mean, to be honest, that's not a very big stretch, but the other thing is you want to keep both hands relaxed. Like I said before, the minute you start tensing up is the minute that it's going to start, you're going to start laboring on it, and you're just going to tense up here, and you're going to, well, you'll give in, basically. So the tighter you are in the hands, the more your stamina will just drop off, you know. If I play it very light. Okay, so you just want to be lighter finger as you're playing through there. So that's the Etude number 36. That's the diminished one. So how much time we got left? Okay, we've got a little bit of time left. Now, the other thing worth looking at is the classical coaching pieces that are there at the website. So we've got the I've got the Prelude number 1 and the Prelude number 1 from the World Tempo Clavier, and Prelude number 1 from the cello suite. A lot of you will know the cello suite. I'll put a bit of reverb on because it sounds like this. Oops. Okay, so that's the Bach cello suite. The first is the Prelude from cello suite number 1 in G major. But then there's the Prelude number 1 from the World Tempo Clavier, which is very, very famous. That sounds like this. Etc. So all we'll look at is the first 4 bars there. Now, at the website, I've got the coaching series where I take you through those pieces in sections, basically. So it's basically like having lessons with me if I'd given you a study piece and then we were going to work through it together, and I'd be picking out, you know, technical errors and hurdles that you're going to have if you were sat there on a Skype lesson with me or something, and I'd be picking your playing apart. Well, it's very similar to that. So let's have a look. So the first bar, let's have a look at that. So this is the first bar, and what we have here is a basic arpeggio of a C major triad. So I'm starting at the 8th fret there, the C on the E string, and I'm coming up through a basic C major triad. So C, E, G, so 7th fret and 10th fret on the A string. And then I've got the C and the E, so I'm extending it there up. So same notes, it's still a C major triad, C and E there, 10th fret on the D string and 9th fret on the G string. So that's your first little set of notes, and then you just drop down to the 5th that you've just played and come back up it with those 3 notes again. So G, C, E, so basically second inversion. So, and that's it. So that's the first thing to get down, okay? And when you're learning any piece like this, you just want to take it a bar at a time, and then just really focus on learning that bar. You know, take it apart technically, take it apart in every way, and then just work on that. So that becomes an exercise in itself. You know, like those etudes that we were just working through. This can become an etude in itself. So here I'm starting on the 2nd finger of the fretting hand, and 1st finger, 4th finger, so you got the basic little arpeggio as you would normally play it, but then I'm shifting with the 2nd finger to play the C and the E. Okay, so 2nd finger and 1st finger. Then, when I'm dropped back down to the G, I use the joint barring with that 2nd finger for the G and the C. Okay, so, and then the 1st finger again on the top. So instantly we're getting to make use of a little bit of joint barring. And another thing to bear in mind is that I'm starting on the 2nd finger of the picking hand, which might seem a little bit weird to you. But I found that it actually works out a lot better with this particular piece. I won't bore you with all the reasons for all this just for now, but I start on the 2nd finger. So after you've played up to that, you just drop back down and play it again. And then you can just Just play it slowly to begin with. Just get it under your fingers. You don't have to worry about being super in time or anything like that. Just get it under the fingers, and then eventually, over time, you'll be able to play it in time. So, like I said, that becomes an exercise in itself, which you could move around. Whoops. I'm just moving it chromatically up the neck or down here. Okay, so that's the first bar. Then let's have a look at the second bar. So this, we stay in the same position and we change chord here to pretty much a D minor. So we come up at C, D. So this is 8th fret and 10th fret on the E string, and then we've got the 7th fret on the D and the G string. And then we've got that 10th fret for the F up on the G string. So again, I'm starting with the second finger of the picking hand, second finger on the fretting hand, fourth finger, first finger joint barring, and then fourth finger. And when, so I pick 2, 1, and then I'm on 2 again when I get to the D string. So that might seem a little bit weird, but again, it's great practice. And take note of what my thumb's doing here. As I shift up onto the D string, I'm moving the thumb onto the A string. That's so that I can mute the E string. That's how you get a nice clean tone, because you don't want any of that ringing out. Again, you can use that as an exercise in its own right. Play around with it. Oops. It feels different in every place that you play it. That's why it's worth moving these things around. Okay, so now when we put the first 2 bars together, so then we've got bar 3. Oops. Is that bar 3? No, that's bar 3. So this time, we've got this G7 arpeggio. So we're on the 7th fret of the E string, then the 10th fret. So we've got the B and the D, and then we're up to the G, D, F. So 10th fret A string, 12th fret on the D string, and 10th fret on the G string. So again, this time I'm joint barring with the first finger across the A and the G string. So first finger, fourth finger, then shift to the first finger for the G, third finger for the D, and then I use the underside of that finger for the F on the top. So these are all those little technical intricacies that you have to think about when learning these kind of things, rather than just thinking, notes, I'm going to learn these notes. Again, I'm starting with the second finger of the picking hand. So it's 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So it's always alternating. And like I said, you can move that around. And that's actually outlining a G7 arpeggio first inversion. It's got the third in the bass. So if you were playing the... Okay, so you get a lot of inversions in classical music. And then after you've played that bar, you just play the first bar again. So we don't need to... Oops. So we don't need to look at that. So we have... So like I said, it's just basic arpeggios, and you know, a lot of people that are more beginner, I mean, you wouldn't want to play this if you're an absolute beginner, but you wouldn't have to have been playing long to play this. It's just, you just play it slower. You just don't go, you just don't play it like that. If you play it and aim for consistency of note duration, ba, ba. I can't sing it in that key. Consistent note duration, ba 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 ba, not ba ba ba. You don't want this. It's got to be held, held, held into each of the next ones. So. And then, you know, beyond that, you can start looking at the actual expression of it and start putting in, you know, I'm accenting on that top note. Little things like that. It's a bit like when you play. How you play with the dynamics. And then if you play around with the rhythm, so. You can make it sound a lot more expressive. I mean, I was overdoing it there, you know, just for effect. But same with this. It's not enough to just play like a computer. You actually want to actually play music, you know. So, again, that is a really good technical workout for bass. And, you know, you don't want to just play classical pieces because they're good technical workouts. I hate it when guitarists do that and they say, oh, yeah, I like playing Bach, basically because they get to exercise the fingers. It's actually, you know, it's beautiful music. You actually want to play because it's a beautiful piece of music, not, you know, with expression rather than just some kind of technical workout. But, you know, it gives you something to play, you know, on bass that's, you know, that's not just, you know, you've actually got a nice piece of music to play. Something to play away from playing, you know, playing along to tracks and playing along to records or whatever. You're actually playing something on your own that's, you know, you don't have to play it to anybody. You just do it for your own amusement, let's say. Okay, so that's it for the seminar side of this. I'll do the Q&A in a second, but like I said, it's the 10th anniversary, a decade of talking bass, and we've got that sale on over at the site. I'm going to be doing loads of these live hangs. I'm doing another one on Wednesday. I'll be doing another one on Saturday, and the same again next week. I've got a cool history of talking bass blog that I'm going to be putting out, so you can see loads of pictures of me as a beginner. And some of the behind the scenes stuff from the from Talking Bass. And like I said, the technique builder course is where all those etudes are, and then you can also work on the Bach pieces as well. They're in there. I know that a lot of beginners are going to look at those pieces in the store and think, oh, I can't do that. That's, you know, and just think that's going to be too difficult. That's advanced, but it's not. They're actually, I don't put anything advanced in the store. So it's, you know, none of the courses are advanced. They're all intended to be, you know, pretty not easy, but stuff that anybody can work on. So, oh, and also, I know I'm using a 24-fret bass here, but on the courses there with the, you know, when I play through these, I've actually made sure that they actually work on a 20-fret bass. I actually play them on a Fender Jazz on the Auto. Do I use my Enfield? Anyway, whatever I use on it, you can use a Fender Jazz, Fender Precision. It makes no difference. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the questions. What would be great now is if I look at the comment section and then all everybody's saying is there's no sound. And I've just been silent for an hour. Okay. Hi, Dave from Charleston, South Carolina. I love Charleston. That was one of the places that me and my missus visited, and we were saying at the time, oh, this would be great to live here. There's only a few places that I've been in the world where I've thought, oh, I'd rather live there. And one of them's Sydney, Australia. I love Sydney. I love New Zealand as well, but I loved South Carolina. I thought it was great. I'm sure if you live there, you'll probably tell me loads of bad things about it, but just visiting it for a few days, it was actually really nice. Is it okay, this is from Chris, is it okay to concentrate on learning the minor pentatonic scales? I know harmonic minor on guitar, but it seems to be clumpy on bass. No, you don't really need to learn harmonic minor. Harmonic minor is only a consequence of a chord 5 major chord. I won't bore you with it, but all this scale stuff, as much as scales are an important part of music, you know, you don't really need to go down the road, especially if it depends on how long you've been playing and what you're doing. You know, if you're just studying really advanced jazz improvisation, then yeah, there's tons of altered scales and things that you can practice. But in terms of, you know, the minor scales, basically you just want the natural minor, and then you can use the minor pentatonic. Minor pentatonic will get you through a lot, to be honest, especially if you're playing rock. I have small hands and also a rather short pinky. I'm trying to cope with this limits with a short scale bass, but wonder how it will be with a long scale one. Well, I did tell you. I've just gone through all that. So shifting, that's how to get by. Eliza, I'm 48 years old. Snap! I was 48 last week. No, not last week. 3rd of June, so last month. 1 month ago. Exactly. Is it too late to get started on bass? Not at all. No. I've taught people that are in the late 70s that have been starting, in early 80s. Yeah, you can start whatever year. You might not... Well, I mean, never say never. You might not have enough time to become the next Hadrian Thoreau or, you know, like a crazy, you know, virtuoso, but... You know, you certainly play most things that would be in a rock band, or, you know. Yeah, there you go. Walter didn't start until he was 55. There's a unit, there's a studio next door. They do spin and all that stuff, and they're starting up now. Let me know if you can hear the music. This happened when I was interviewing Jeff Berlin, actually, and he couldn't hear it, so maybe it won't be too bad. Okay, so everybody's talking about the age thing. I'll get moving in a minute. I'm starving. I've not eaten since this morning. Yeah, there you go. There's plenty of people in the 50s. I have a hard time forcing myself to alternate pick. If I don't concentrate, I will fall back to raking some notes. Don't know how to make correct... Well, it depends on what you're playing. That habit of actually playing raking naturally, I do all the time as well. Everybody does. You know, if you just play normal bass lines, it doesn't matter. It's when you're playing more intricate things that you find difficult that you want to do. If there's no problem with what you're playing, then go with it. You know, raking is the more efficient way to play. I would probably rake more than alternate pick on a lot of stuff, but it's when you're learning pieces that are difficult for you. I mean, difficult is all relative, you know. But that's when you want to start thinking in terms of alternate picking and taking note of where your rakes are. It's fine to rake, you just have to take note of where they are, so you're practicing the same thing every time. It's consistency of practice. Hi Mark, on the technique builder course, do you recommend do each etude in order, or is to choose one which I need to work on? You can. Yeah, I mean, it depends. If you're having problems with stretch, you could try the stretch ones, but I would probably try working through them in order, to be honest, because they're not totally progressive in terms of difficulty, but they're fairly progressive in difficulty. Dave's asking what book I'm working from today. It's the Technique Builder course over at the website. Any tips for practicing certain notes with the picking hand? When learning, we strive for consistency with both fingers, so it's hard to learn to alter. I spent a long time, well, I say a long time, I practiced it, just getting even notes, right? Now, playing even notes, like ba 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 ba, instead of ba 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 ba, is the key to doing accents, because you can't do the accents correctly until you've got absolute consistency, because you're still going to have accents all over the place. So you want to get nice consistency of attack, and then, I mean, I'm exaggerating it here. So then you just play certain groupings. So let's say you were going to play fours. So I might play 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just practice on accenting with that second finger, so the middle finger. Then you could try twos. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 2, and 1. That's all accenting with that second finger. Then try the opposite. Try picking on the ands. So 1 and. So that means you're just picking. You're accenting. You're still starting on the second finger, but you're accenting with the first. So. And then try groups of 3. So just accenting on the first note of each group. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And when you do that, you'll accent on alternating fingers. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So first time accent is going to be on the second finger, and then it's going to be on the first finger. And eventually that just becomes second nature. So you don't have to think about it. It's exactly the same as drumming. And I used to have drum lessons and things, so I'm not a very good drummer, but in terms of sticking, it's very much like that, accenting with different hands. And you get used to the right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, and then all the rudiments like paradiddles and stuff. You get used to different groupings of things on when you're playing drums. And I think that actually helped me on bass, because I kind of think of those fingers as drumsticks. So, and then you can start putting octaves in. So, just alternating, and it's going to be 2, 1, 2, 1 on the top note. Okay, so that's just a tip on that. Can't see the Technique Builder on the website. It's you're not in the app, are you? It's not in My Courses. Some people go to My Courses looking for the courses. It's all in the shop. Go to the shop, and it's further down the page. It's definitely there. What bass guitar are you holding in your hands? This is an Ibanez SR1000 that I bought in about 1992. They did 2 models of this. They did the sort of pinky looking one and the blue one. These were really popular at the time. The pickups are Sims Super Quads. It's the ones that I have on my Enfield. Originally it was EMG. Well, actually, originally it was Ibanez pickups, and then I switched them out for EMGs because there was a model of this that had EMGs. That was the more expensive one. You had EMGs on it, so I got the EMGs, and then eventually I wanted to have the Sim Super Quads. So that's what I've got now. So you can probably hear all the music in the background. So I will get moving. So if you've got any very last questions before we go. The Bach pieces aren't in the Technique Builder. They're at the. If you go right down in the shop, you'll see there's classical coaching. You'll see Prelude number 1 from the Well Temper Clavier, and you'll see the Cello Suite one as well. So they're the 2 different classical pieces. So Technique Builder is a different course. There's Technique Builder, and then there's the classical coaching. So I used extracts from both of them just to show you some examples of the stuff that we looked at with the technique. Good shot, Jansen. I love you, Mike. Yes, thank you very much. I'd say I love you, but I don't know if I do. I don't know you. I love that you're here. We can't hear the spin class, just you. Oh, good. But seriously, it's been, I mean, really, I could not have done this without all you guys and gals. You know, it's been a long 10 years, to be honest. I mean, it's flown by, but in terms of actually what I've been constantly working through it, it's, you know, I don't gig anymore or anything. I literally do this 24/7. I work Sundays, I work Saturdays. I'm constantly, all day, every day, I'm doing this. Creating the courses, doing the stuff to the work, because there's only me. And there's Ellen now. Ellen's community manager, and she does a lot of the stuff on the YouTube side. So, but for a lot of the time, it has just been me. I do all of the course design and creation, all the video editing, all the lighting, whatever it is. Website development, all the SEO, all the advertising, the marketing, everything, the whole bit. So it's been like I say, a 24/7 job, really. And without the support from all of the community, I would have given up a long time ago, because it's a lot to take on. And, there's been a lot of times, it's played, havoc with my mental health at times, to be honest. There were times around 2016, especially when we got really young kids, when I was almost having a nervous breakdown. It was like really hard work, because we were struggling financially. We'd got two very young daughters, because we had one in 2013, one in 2014. So around the 2015 mark, it was hard work. And you'll see my weight gain around that time. It's like it just goes right up, then drops down. Now we've got Jensen, we've got another one. So trying to balance the, having a family, a young family, and trying to run this as a business, basically, and try and do all of the stuff all by myself is, it's hard work. So I would have... given up a long time ago if it wasn't for the support of everybody, because I get emails every day from people saying nice things. I get nice testimonials. I get like people, in the comment section, saying all the nicest things, saying, because I never know, I don't know whether you're, whether it's working, because all I see are these four walls. I'm just creating courses, doing this, doing that. I barely get out of the house. I have no idea whether it's working for everybody or not. So when you send me things and you tell me that, I've just enrolled in a music college, or this has been working wonders, I've just joined my first band, and all these kind of things, that's amazing, because I have no idea whether how effective it's been. All I know is what works, from teaching, from experience of doing that, and my own progress. So I just have faith in myself in some ways. I have faith in the process and the things, and just know that if you do the right things, you will succeed. So it's like I say, in all seriousness, it's you've all been a savior. So I'll get moving. Let's just see. I've just had a few people talking. Stephen's been watching for about 3 years. Any of you been here? Who's the longest? I wonder what the longest any of you have been. If you have been watching, because I'd love it if there's somebody that's been here for the full 10 years. Hi, Colin. He's just got the Cyber Basics one. That's great. It keeps him off the streets at night. Yeah, who knows what I'd be doing if it wasn't for this. Cool, your beginner bass videos with the right. So that's 4 years ago. Bill's, because Bill's been around. He's an old fave, so he's been here. I do see the same names cropping up all the time, so I still see Bill there. There's Walter, Pam Anders, who was in quite a bit. They've been around for ages. So about 6 years. So that's 2017. Ed's been with me all 10. Music Theory for Bass. Yeah, because I did the Music Theory for Bass YouTube video. That was that series that I did right at the start. So that's brilliant. There we go. We've got a 10-year. We've got a lifer. Big Al, he's been from the start. Graham there from 2017. Yeah, there's a few from 17. Thanks, Serge. Don't give up, man. We all struggle at one point. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a good place now. I mean, it was just times. I mean, honestly, I thought they were going to take me away in a straitjacket at one point. I mean, it was really playing havoc with me because I was just burning candle at both ends. It was just really bad. And you know, just having no sleep, you know, from the kids and just a lot of things, financial worries, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the business is doing a lot better now, so I don't have that worry as much. I can invest a lot more in the actual stuff. But man, at one point it was really bad, and I didn't think of giving up, to be honest, because I was quite stubborn with actually carrying on. But there have been times when I've been wanting to stop for a while. But one thing is, I have managed somehow, even when I've had COVID and everything, I've managed to have a course release. Sorry, not a course release, a video release on YouTube almost every Friday since July 2013. I think there's probably 4 weeks that I've missed. I know I missed one recently because I was quite ill. And yeah, so over the 10 years, I think I've missed it 4 times, maybe 3. So I've been pretty consistent with that. So that's good. Oh, thank you, Reagan fan. You are amazing. You too are amazing. And he's put in $20. That's cool. Cool. All right then, everybody. So I'll let the class get on next door, and so yeah, I'll be doing another live hang on Wednesday. So I'm going to try and keep these regular for these next couple of weeks while we've got the anniversary sale going on. Not just the sale, but the celebrations. And like I said, I'll put an email out for the blog that I'm putting out. That's going to go right into how I got started, and it's going to be pictures from backstage, behind the scenes stuff. There's pictures of me when I first started, when I was at college, when I was gigging. There's going to be a load of stuff. It's going to be basically the story of me and Talking Bass, how it got started. Scott Devine even makes an appearance in there. So yeah, so I'll get moving, and it's been great to see you. I love doing these. It's great. And like I said, the Technique Builder course, that was one of them, and then there's the 2 classical ones. So if you're thinking the classical one, that, you know, the Prelude is there in the Technique Builder, it's not. That's a separate course, so that's 2 different ones. But yep, we've got the sale on at the moment. So I'll be here again on Wednesday, so same time again, I think. So I'll see you all here, and I'll have a different subject to talk about. So I'll see you later.